What is up, everybody? Mike here, doing a longer video today, and that's because a long video is well overdue, and I'm switching up the camera angle, doing a little kind of like a POV, mostly just to see out the windshield. And for those of you who are new to the channel or new to this video, we are driving a 2015 Hellcat, just to specify, and that's what this video is going to be about. So when I had the Corvette, I made a video very similar to this about basically the experience of daily driving my car. You know, that's what I do. I don't have like a sports car just for the weekends or something. When I have a car like this, I drive it every day, and then I try to make a video and chronicle my experiences, and if it's a good experience or not, which so far it's been very great. So that's what I wanted to do today, kind of share the experience of driving a Hellcat every day and why I think it's a perfect daily driver. So the first thing I want to talk about is just overall, you know, drivability of this car. And, you know, it may be a 700 horsepower absolute monster. That's very true. But at the same time, it's very easy to drive. And, you know, I was a little bit nervous. I want to talk about the gearbox here for a second. You know, I'm not necessarily a Dodge person. I've never had experience with a Dodge gearbox before, and I was not even aware that the gearbox in the Hellcat is basically lifted straight from the Dodge Viper, which is very cool. That's something I didn't actually even know before I bought the car. And, you know, it's kind of funny though, because had I known that, I may not have gotten this car, because I've heard things about the Vipers that, you know, they're not always so easy to drive and so nice to drive on a regular basis. But I have to say, what I've experienced is a sharp contrast to that. I absolutely love this gearbox. I think it's so smooth and easy to drive. You know, I got in it, and my first few shifts were perfectly smooth. So, you know, just to let everyone know as well, of course, now we're talking about this is a 6-speed manual Hellcat, not an automatic, which I've heard the 8 speeds are great in these too. I haven't driven one, but I've heard that they're great. But anyway, we're talking about a manual here, and as far as daily driving goes, you know, this gearbox is awesome. I don't think you're going to have any issues with this whatsoever. It's great. It's really smooth, and it's different, you know. And if you want to learn more about the way it looks and feels, please check out my channel. I have tons of videos on it, because I'm not going to go in depth into everything today. I just kind of want to cover a broad range of things. But anyway, the gearbox, you know, it's kind of, the shift lever is angled a little bit weird. It's kind of angled to the left, so it takes a second to get used to. The throws are, I don't know what you would say. I guess you would say they're a little bit more relaxed. You know, they're not as notchy as like a Corvette, where it's a super short throw. But at the same time, you know, this gearbox is really at home just driving on your favorite back road or in traffic. It's a great gearbox to drive. Like I said, really smooth. You can hear it here in the video. You can hardly, other than the noise of the exhaust, which is, of course, pretty loud, you can't probably even tell I'm shifting. That's how smooth it is. And of course, you know, I only have 1,500 miles on the car, and I've been, you know, driving it a lot. But it's just an awesome gearbox. No problems there. Sticking to the interior for a second, and again, I have a full in-depth review on my channel of this car in the interior if you want to see like all the ins and outs of everything, the Uconnect system, how you do everything in this car. But I just want to speak to it kind of from a daily driving perspective. It's great. You know, this car has tons of stuff to keep you busy and to keep you entertained while you're driving. Of course, you should be driving and paying attention, but I'm talking about connecting to your phone and all that, and the navigation if you need it. Everything works really well. It's really easy to use, easy to navigate, very user-friendly, which is one thing I like about the Dodge Uconnect system. It's really easy to get in and use. It doesn't take you, you know, 2 hours to figure things out. It's very straightforward and something that you can pick up right away. I love the steering wheel. The steering wheel feels awesome, and you know, everything here in the center cluster of your gauges is easy to use and very nice as well. You know, no problems there when you're driving down the road, and it's awesome. You can check anything you want, of course, in the center cluster here in your gauges, like a lot of manual cars, not manual cars, sorry, like a lot of modern cars. And speaking to the seats for a second, the interior of the car, very, very comfortable. I recently took this on a trip to Pittsburgh, which is about a 200-mile trip for me each way, so 400 miles in total. Absolutely loved it. You know, I got out, wasn't sore at all. I got out of the car, walked around Pittsburgh all day long, drove it home that night, and got out, and still, you know, not an ounce of soreness whatsoever. It was an awesome experience. And we actually took my girlfriend's little brother on a college visit to Pittsburgh. That's why we went. And he is about 5'11" and sat in the back, and he actually had no complaints whatsoever. He loved it. and it was comfortable back there. So I know that the back seats, of course, are not exactly very large in a car like this, as you would expect, but they are comfortable, you know, even for someone who's, I'd say, average to maybe a little bit taller. So yeah, I think the back seats are pretty good for this type of car, and the front seats, very, very comfortable. It's an awesome experience. Driving this car is really comfortable, which is what I'm gonna get to in a second. So speaking of that point really quick about comfort, you know, basically this is one of the most comfortable cars I've ever driven. And, you know, perhaps some people would disagree with me on this, but I really think that it is. One of the things that makes this car so easy to drive on a daily basis, if you're talking about potentially daily driving something like this, is the fact that everything going on in this car makes it so you don't have to do hardly anything. And I know that this stuff isn't, you know, like breakthrough technology on modern cars, but it's nice that a car like this has it. I mean, this thing only costs 60 grand, which, you know, is a good amount of money, but not a whole lot compared to what you get as a lot of standard stuff. So you get a heated steering wheel, which is awesome in the winter. You get, of course, heated seats. And what I was talking about a second ago, besides all the tech and interior options, you get this blind spot monitoring system that's comes on automatically. You never have to worry about you know, somebody in your blind spot, which makes it easier to drive a car like this, because let's face it, the styling of this car and its immense size do make it a little bit intimidating to drive. You know, you can't see out of it that well, of course, even if you have your mirrors adjusted correctly, and that system makes it really easy. If it starts raining, the windshield wipers turn on automatically. If someone's behind you with a bright light, your rear view mirror will dim automatically. So it's just a bunch of stuff that this car does behind the scenes that you don't even have to worry about, that makes it so easy to drive. And that's one of the things I love about it so much, is that you always feel like this car's helping you drive. You feel like it's a system that you're working together with the car, and it's awesome. I love it. It definitely makes it really easy to drive on a regular basis. I know that some people would probably be intimidated by the size of this car and the things you've heard, you know, oh my gosh, it's a boat and it's so hard to drive. And, you know, keep in mind, I'm going from a Corvette, which is a pretty small car. A Corvette weighed about 3,300 pounds, you know, not exact. I mean, Corvettes are wide, but not exactly very long or anything like that. So, you know, coming from a car like that, I was able to get in this with pretty much no issue. So I think that should definitely tell you that this is not a hard car to get accustomed to at all. You get in it and, you know, you're just driving along fine, and after a couple of days, you're totally used to it. So, you know, I would not be intimidated by the size of this car. I know a lot of people are, and a lot of people think that it handles really poorly too. But I will say, obviously, you have to go into it knowing how a 4,400-pound car is going to handle. With that being said, it's very well composed for its size. It's really, really good. I mean, you turn on the suspension settings to sport or track on a back road, and it is really well composed. There's not a ton of body roll. You know, it really puts down the power well, which is surprising considering these aren't the most aggressive tires in the world, and it's got 700 horsepower, of course, but you know, it is really well composed. So overall, really a joy to drive, whether you're driving it, like I said, aggressively, or whether you're just driving it to the office every day. I mean, it's a really nice car to drive. It's a really good experience. I have no issues with it whatsoever. And I'm a smaller guy, and I'm about 5'9". I'm a little bit heavier. I'm about 200 pounds. But, you know, I can see out of it just fine. Everything's adjusted well. So definitely wouldn't think that that's going to be a problem for anybody. Another funny thing that I do want to touch on is, because you can see here, I drive this car in all kinds of weather. Not that it's raining or anything, but it was earlier. You can see a lot of water on the road. And I drive this in the rain, and I drive this in the cold, and I plan probably to drive this car in the snow. And I was actually at a gas station yesterday talking to a friend of mine. Noticed me and came up to me, and we were talking, and then an older gentleman came up and said, how do you control that thing in the rain? That's a Hellcat, right? And like, how do you drive it? And it's kind of funny to me because, you know, it's like any car. It doesn't matter if your car has 100 horsepower or 1,000 horsepower. It's all about how you drive it when it comes to weather or something like that. So, you know, I find that funny how people are always like, oh my gosh, it must be a nightmare. And no, it's totally not a nightmare. It's just about how you drive it. Obviously, you know, if you're going to be jamming the throttle all the time, then of course it is going to be a nightmare. But you know, if you drive reasonably and you drive according to the weather, you're not going to have a problem as well. I've driven this in, like I said, any type of weather, pouring down rain when it was like 40 degrees, And, you know, obviously you got to be careful. It doesn't have a ton of grip. These tires are not for cold weather, and it's got a lot of power, so you have to be careful, but it does just fine. So that's another area that I would say, you know, don't worry about it. At the end of the day, what makes this car so drivable on a regular basis is because, yes, it's a Hellcat. It has 700 horsepower, but it's really just a Challenger, you know, and a Challenger is just a rear-wheel drive basic car. Well, I mean, to be honest, let's face it. And you can, I mean, how many people daily drive Mustangs and everything else? And how many BMWs across the world are driven on a regular basis that are rear-wheel drive? So, you know, it's really no different than every other car. I know that it's tough to ignore the 700 horsepower thing, which, believe me, you know, I'm glad that it has it, and it's awesome when you want it. But when you can't use that power, don't worry about it, because you can drive this car totally normally. And, you know, some people have even said, like, you can use the black key to take down the power. I wouldn't worry about it. You know, I really wouldn't. Like I said, it's all about how you drive, and the traction control systems in this car are going to keep you in line as well. You know, even in the rain, there's been a couple times where, you know, trying to get up to speed or whatever, I have lost a little bit of traction, and it just cuts power right away and keeps you in line. And of course, a decent driver can modulate the throttle and keep it in line himself or herself. So, you know, really, I would not get intimidated by this car. I think you can drive it every day, regardless of the weather. That's always been my philosophy. You know, I'm not about storing a car for I live in the north, I live in Pennsylvania, for reference, and, you know, I've never been the kind of person who wants to get a car and store it for 3 to 4 months out of the year. That's a big part of my life. That's 4 months. So, you know, not something I want to do is just have a car sit somewhere for that long. I want to get out and enjoy it. That being said, you know, if I had a Lamborghini or something like that, I probably wouldn't drive it in the winter, but a car like this, Corvette, whatever, absolutely, I think it's no problem. I'm probably gonna, like I said, throw some snow tires on this. The only time I won't take it out is obviously, you know, if it's just ridiculous, like if there's a ton of snow on the ground. You know, I'm not gonna be stupid, but at the same time, I am gonna drive the car and enjoy it regardless of the weather. Some things to watch out for when it comes to the Hellcat after driving it for a while here on a regular basis. Just be careful. You know, it is a Challenger, but with that big front lip, there are some things that it will scrape on, believe it or not. It's lower. You know, the Challenger certainly doesn't look like a very low car, but like I said, that front lip, just be careful, because it will scrape. There are some things like a steep speed bump or a steep incline driveway or something like that. You got to be aware of that for sure. Other than that, you know, really nothing else that I've noticed as far as drive. That's the only kind of thing that you have to watch out for. Other than that, it's really easy. It has a great, really good backup camera. And, you know, it has a humongous 8-inch screen here in the middle of your console to help you with that camera as well. So parking is really never an issue. It's got sensors all over it. Like I said, it's got the blind spot sensors, which really help as well with a car of this size. So, you know, nothing else that I've noticed that you should watch out for. Just that, you know, keep an eye on the front lip and everything. Make sure you're not scraping on things. Just be careful. And other than that, you shouldn't have any issues driving around. Just, you know, to kind of make a point here for the video, I take this car everywhere. I take it to school, I take it to work, I take it to the grocery store, to the gym, whatever. And you know, one of the things I like about the Hellcat is when I took my Corvette places, I did worry sometimes about it. You know, it was bright yellow also, but, you know, Corvette draws a little bit of attention to itself. The Hellcat, I really don't feel like that's the case. You know, the only people who notice this car are car people, and usually car people are respectful. Other people don't notice it. You know, nobody's probably gonna like vandalize this car just for the sake of vandalizing it. It looks like a V6 rental fleet Challenger to most people, which, you know, some people would say that's a negative. Of course, you know, as car people, we like positive attention for our cars, but you know, that is kind of nice as well. The fact that this car kind of blends in and you can take it anywhere, and really, I don't think you have to worry about it. Let's get a little rev in this bridge. I don't know if you can hear it, but but anyway, so yeah, that's one thing that I just wanted to say. I drive this car everywhere. I've already got close to 1,600 miles on it, and I've only had the car for a few weeks, and now we're being stopped. Oh yeah, I see you, buddy. Don't worry with your scuba diving flag. I see you. But anyway, so that's one thing I definitely wanted to mention, that I do drive this car everywhere, and it's a ton of fun, and you can park it anywhere and really not have to worry about it at all. All right. Alright, so I see that we're running pretty long here on the video, which is good. You know, I wanted to make this a very long, in-depth video that would be helpful to a lot of people. The one last thing I just want to touch on is gas mileage and something like that, just to kind of add to the experience of driving the car. And I posted it, like some of the other things I've said, I've posted a video just about this subject on my channel not that long ago, so check it out. But I actually average close to 15 miles to the gallon in this car, which, you know, isn't great, but when you consider 700 horsepower and the fact that, you know, I drive, let's be honest, I do accelerate from time to time, spiritedly, we'll call it. And so I think 15 is pretty good. You know, many people commented on that video and said, you know, I get 12 in my Scat Pack, or, you know, I get like 15 in my Mustang, so that's good. So, you know, that's awesome, the fact that this thing gets 15 miles to the gallon. It was 14.7. So yeah, miles to the gallon, I don't think it's as bad as you might even think. Not that you buy this car expecting good gas mileage, that's for sure, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people would think, and that's just an extra plus. You know, the fact that you can have your 700 horsepower car and still get decent gas mileage. One last point I want to touch on here to kind of wind down the video is practicality as far as storage space. And I know that we went over practicality early in the video. I think it's a very practical vehicle overall. It really is. It's got a ton of space, which is what I want to say here. The trunk in this car is enormous. I easily fit in the trunk. I was making a little video, just a funny video the other day, and I can easily get in the trunk. If you want to go by the dead hooker scale, you can fit at least 3 in the trunk for sure. It depends on how big they are, of course, but at least 3. So it's massive. The trunk is massive. That's another reason why I love driving this car on a regular basis. It's really practical. You can fit 4 people in here pretty comfortably, fit a ton of stuff in the trunk, definitely big enough for a few suitcases and stuff like that. I even put my dogs in here to take them to go get groomed and everything. So yeah, it's got a ton of space in it. It's really, really practical. I think that's one of the things about this car is the practicality aspect, because like we touched on earlier, it's just at the end of the day a regular Challenger, which people use a lot for daily purposes. So, you know, a Hellcat falls into that same category. It's absolutely a practical car, and you can fit a ton of stuff in here, comfortable to drive every day, and you're not going to have any issues with that. Alright guys, so I see we are running along here, but that's okay. I wanted to make this a long video, and I hope everyone enjoyed the little driving angle, seeing out over the massive hood there with its supercharger bulge in it. And I love driving this car, I really do. It's so awesome to drive. You know, if you're on the fence about driving one of these things and you're worried about you know, the practicality aspect, you're worried about driving it every day, and so I'd say go for it. I don't regret the decision at all. I really do love driving this car. It's awesome. It's just so easy to drive. Like I said, you know, manual. I've been in traffic throughout this whole video, and I don't care. It doesn't even bother me. You know, the manual is just so easy to drive. So get that too if that's what you want. You know, I myself prefer that, but the 8 speeds also well. So anyway, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. As the title would suggest, should you drive a Hellcat every day? Absolutely. You're going to have a ton of fun, which is the most important thing. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Always appreciated. If you're stopping in for the first time, please subscribe, and take care. Have a great day. Yeah, I love this car.